Cool. So we are going to get started in I think in a restorative bridge pose this evening with a block or something under your pelvis. Yeah, whenever you feel like making your way there, just go for it. And I also wanted to say this, that if anybody would like to use props from the studio, I would be happy to grab and deliver them to you. So just shoot me an email, let me know. Great, and it's probably a good idea also to have your music control situation close by. Awesome. Yeah, I'm really excited about this playlist, and Teresa, who was the inspiration for this, is here with us tonight. So yeah, it is funny how I listen to lots of music without words, but every time I put a class together, I find that most of the songs are pretty filled with words and emotions and all the things that come with words. So rather than letting that be our guiding force for this evening, maybe we can just begin to kind of sink into our own guiding force, which could be anything really. Right, so beginning in your restorative bridge pose with the block underneath your pelvis. And you can hit play on your music. Good. Just taking a little bit of time to settle in here. And taking time to check in. Which I know is not always the easiest thing because our minds want to go in all the directions. You want to solve all the problems, but maybe not right now. Maybe right now you give yourself a little bit of space from all of that. A little bit of space and a slightly deeper breath. And I just wanted to read a little section of the Tao Te Ching, number 56, chapter 56. Those who know don't talk. Those who talk don't know. Close your mouth, block off your senses, blunt your sharpness, untie your knots, soften your gaze, settle your dust. This is the primal identity. And just before class, I pulled an archetype card out of my deck, and the card that I pulled out is the thread. And in the little passage in the book on the thread, it talks about the knots that kind of build up inside of us. The knots that maybe it's our job to start to pick at and untangle a little bit. And so with your breath, scan your attention through your body. Just take notice of any physical knots that might be present this evening that you can like really feel. And allow whatever can soften just to soften a bit. And I'm going to suggest in your restorative bridge pose, extending one of your legs out nice and long here. You might keep that opposite knee bent and pointing up. And just take a moment, perhaps with your arms stretched out overhead. Yeah, if you want to send both legs long, do it. That's fine too. Yeah, what's going on in your low back, in your low belly? Good. Just another 5 deep breaths. Maybe thinking about coming up with a short and succinct little theme for your practice, the purpose of your practice. A few words to remind yourself why you're here, why you practice. Okay. And then let's take the soles of the feet back down to the floor. And we're gonna lift up the hips and take that block out of there and just remain on your back. Let's grab a hold of the strap here. And we're going to extend the left foot up towards the ceiling and take the strap onto the bottom of your foot. And I just want you to kind of pull one side of the strap, then the other. Good. So it's almost like a little mini massage of the sole of your foot. We did this in yesterday morning's class, and oh, it just felt so good. And so taking a moment here to wake up that left foot a little bit. And you might consider letting it be in like a neutral position, or maybe you want to flex the foot deeply to get into the back of a hamstring. And maybe just another 3 or 4 breaths here. Pulling on that strap, one side then the other. Right, and then release the strap from that left foot and cross your left thigh over your right thigh. And we're just gonna pull the knees in towards the chest here. So it's like a shoelaces pose on your back. Good, feeling a nice little stretch through that left sitting bone area underneath the glutes. Good, just 3 more breaths. Okay, and as you come on out of this one, soles of the feet together, knees wide, recline bound angle. And you might take this little like rock from side to side on your pelvis, like picking up one side of your glutes and then the other, eventually settling here in the middle. And let's think about maybe stretching the arms out past the head again. Nice. Yeah, just a few breaths, clasping the elbows if that makes sense to your shoulders and your neck. Good, and then keeping those arms overhead very slowly, like slower than you can imagine. Draw the knees up. Right? Really use the inner thigh muscles, the belly muscles to make this happen. Maybe a little shake occurs on your way up. And then when you get there, soles of the feet on the floor, bring the arms back down alongside you, and we'll take the strap up to that right foot. Good, and we're just gonna do that same thing here. A little bit of like, maybe this is like a mild exfoliation actually. So just moving the strap side to side, kind of waking that foot up just a touch. Good, everybody. Need a few more breaths. And maybe that foot moves into like a deep flex. Maybe you find stillness with the arms and stretch through the back of that leg a whole lot. Good. Maybe 2 more breaths here. Wonderful, and as you release the strap from that right foot, cross the right thigh over the left. And you can stay here, or you might begin to draw those knees in towards the chest. Okay, a nice easygoing shoelaces on your back. Awesome, everybody. Great, and then from here, let's unwind those legs, the soles of both of your feet on the floor, And this is where we're gonna take a bridge pose. So just press into the backs of your arms, lift up your pelvis. Good, really press those feet into the floor. Great, finding some strength through the lower body. And also feel the back of the heart sort of pick up and towards the chin. Good, and then roll yourself back down, drop the knees to one side and then the other side, just finding a little bit of movement, this internal and external rotation of the hips. Spinning onto the inner and the outer edges of the feet. Good. All right, and then from here, let's roll over to our side and just curl up into a little ball for a moment. Take a couple of deep breaths into your lower back. Really notice the gentle movement there. And then let's make our way up into a nice, comfortable seated position. All right, and you might want to sit up on a blanket. We're gonna sit for maybe like, I don't know, 4 or 5 minutes and do a breathing exercise. Oh, I learned this one today. And one thing I love about practicing yoga is that like, there's never an end to the new stuff to learn. It just keeps on coming. I'm like 20 something years in and I just learned this today. So I'm pumped to share it with you. All right, so it's a breathing technique that's like alternate nostril breathing, but there's some arm movements involved. And we're just gonna begin by crossing the right arm over the left, and you wanna tuck your hands into your armpits. Yeah, I love the armpits. So just take a couple moments here and actually like squeeze your armpits. Squeeze those muscles on the sides of your chest, where your lung points start. Your armpits are where your heart points begin. All right, and then just sit up nice and tall. And maybe I'll demonstrate one because it's very, very simple but kind of difficult to talk through. So on the inhale, you reach the right arm up, bend at the elbow, cover the right nostril, exhale out of the left. And then drop that hand back, inhale, left arm reaches up, cover the nostril, exhale, right nostril. Good, tuck it in, inhale, right arm reaches up, bend at the elbow, cover that right nostril, exhale, tuck it in, inhale, left arm, cover the nostril, breathe out through the right, and let's just keep that going. All right, so just keep that going for like 5 more rounds. Good, and the next time you breathe out of the left, just breathe normally. And allow the arms to just kind of settle, hands to the lap. Sit up nice and tall, and just take notice of your balance and your sitting bones. Right, side to side, front to back. Feel the crown of the head reaching up here, nice. Okay, we're gonna use our strap again, and let's take a little bit of time to just like intuitively move here. So we're gonna hold the strap up above our head as much as possible. Good. And the strap can be close, it can be wide, but you just like swing around a little bit here. And really the key to this movement, in my opinion, to keeping it kind of safe, is by being aware of what's going on in between your lower ribs and the top of your pelvis. So avoiding like schlumping in that area. Good. You might reach your arms back behind you. You might take like these nice side stretches. Good. But just see if you can keep nice and strong and active through the belly. Maybe even some big circles. I'm a fan of these. Maybe almost like seated cats and cows, but with your hands on the strap instead of your knees. And just a couple more breaths. Great. And then let's go ahead and release the strap. Let's hug the arms, right arm under left. Walk your fingertips around to your upper back and just kind of curl in for a second. Good. Inhale, reach those arms nice and wide. And then let's curl in the other way, walking those fingertips around. Good. A few more breaths, just like this. Just think about building a little bit of heat here. Good, and then we're gonna fold over our legs. Head towards the floor. Just take a moment to wiggle the shoulders out, maybe rock the hips side to side. Awesome. Great, and then take a little bit of time to roll over onto hands and knees. And we're not gonna stay here for very long, but it might feel nice just to like move the spine around for a couple of moments. Anything will do here, any kind of cat-cow movements. A little bit of, a little shift of the hips from side to side. Good. If you want to take a lion's breath, maybe that will be nice, sticking your tongue out, letting go of some of the weirdness of the day, maybe. Or maybe contributing to the weirdness of the day, I don't know. Awesome. All right. And then from here, downward facing dog. Or a dolphin pose if you prefer. You could stay on hands and knees. And those little down dog rituals that you are so accustomed to in your own body, right? At first, kind of indulging yourself. You're doing all those familiar things. But then I want you to do something that's maybe a little less familiar to you. Maybe you want to take your feet really wide. Or maybe you want to like lift way, way, way up onto the tips of your toes and see what that's all about. Maybe you want to tent your hands and try to lift your palms away from the floor. Just taking a moment to do something a little different. Before eventually settling yourself back into the comfortable thing, the thing you know and love, that down dog. Good. As you inhale, roll forward into your high plank pose or plank with the knees down. Great, feel your belly, the inner thighs kind of lifting, heels pressing back. Good, downward facing dog again. Let's reach that right leg up and back behind and kind of open through the hip here. Point that right knee high. Super, pick up that left shoulder so it's in line with the right. And then step the right foot in between your hands at the top of the mat. Inhale, the left foot's gonna meet it. Lift up halfway. And then exhale to fold forward. Grab a hold of the hair at the top of your head. Give it a little tug. Yeah, maybe buzz your lips. Feel the back of the neck nice and long. Great, and then soften those knees and breathe in to come all the way up. Reach nice and high. Good, exhale, Utkatasana, chair pose. And whichever chair is best for you today, your arms can be any old style. Maybe you're an armless chair, your hands are in your lap. Yeah, maybe there's a shimmy or a wiggle in your chair pose. But eventually, just soften forward into that standing forward fold. Good. As you inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, plant your palms and step it back to downward facing dog or hands and knees. You can move through a high plank and a chaturanga if you like that sort of thing. But taking your time to do the thing that feels right to you. I found that if some part of my body is painful or aggravated, it's best to avoid stressing it out. So do what works today. Yeah, this practice is yours. And eventually we'll all meet back in that downward facing dog. And in your down dog, reach that left leg up and back behind and open through the hip just a little bit here, pointing that knee nice and high. Good. Yeah, press equally into both of your hands. Great, and then let's step that left foot in between the hands. Inhale, right foot meets the left, halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. Good. Pull your hair again or interlace your fingers behind your back, press your knuckles up, just something to relieve some of that tension above the heart, right? We carry it around. Nice. And then like you're a flower, kind of pressing out through the soil, soften those knees, bend, and then straighten, reaching those arms up nice and high. Good, and then a chair pose, and maybe it's a chair pose with a shimmy. Your feet might even be like wider here to support some more movement through the hips. Good, just taking a moment or two. Oh yeah, and there's always the rock up onto the toes. Good. Take another breath. Awesome, and then allow yourself to just fold forward, softening in here. Good, for a moment, letting those arms hang heavy. And then inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, plant your palms, step it back, downward facing dog. Good, in your flow here, yeah, maybe it's high plank, lowering down into chaturanga, exhaling back, downward dog. Maybe rest. Nice. Yeah, deep breath in. And a nice breath out. Right, and then breathe in, reach your right leg up and back behind you. Open through the hip again, pointing that knee nice and high. And this time, take a look up over your left shoulder for your right foot behind you. Good. Think about making the distance between your foot and your head a little smaller, even if it's just the idea. And then step that right foot in between your hands at the top of the mat. Good. Let's raise those arms up into high lunge just for one big breath in, like slow motion up, a big breath out, slow motion down, hands to frame that right foot. Send the left leg high, standing split. And that's just a quick little transition on your way into your standing forward fold. When you find your standing forward fold, grab a hold of your elbows and give your upper body a really nice sway from side to side. And that might even include some kind of like twisting movement here, where you open your chest up to one side and then the other side. Yeah, nice. See if you can let your head be kind of free here. And eventually come back through to the center and like a flower blooming up out of the ground. Reaching all the way up and overhead, that big stretch, the fingers nice and wide. Good, and then sit down low into your chair pose, hands together at the heart. Good, and let's think about, like we were kind of moving around before, but let's think about really drawing towards the center here as we take a twist. Let's twist with that left elbow down to the right knee, or the left hand in front of you, the right arm behind you for the tall twist. Good. Good. 2 deep breaths. Okay, and come back through to the center. Nice, like kind of rigid, straightforward chair pose just for a breath. Good, and then exhale and dive yourself forward and shake your arms out, shake the head gently. Good. Yeah, allow your shoulder blades to move around. See if you can get them a little like unfrozen, unstuck. Nice. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, plant your palms. Let's step back to high plank pose. Great, and then we're gonna take some kind of a side plank situation. So you might bring both of your heels over to the right. Maybe that left hand starts to lift up towards the ceiling, or maybe it stays on the floor. You might also drop that right knee down. And then take a big swing around with that left arm. Good, like the hand of a clock. Yeah, a bunch of circles here, feeling that lift from the right side of the body. And then eventually go ahead and set yourself down into high plank pose. Lower yourself down to the floor and make contact. Good, press into the hands, lift up the heart a little bit or a lot. Exhale, take it on back, downward facing dog or child's pose if your shoulders are in need of a little reprieve. Good, and noticing again those knots within you, right? After we start moving a little bit, sometimes they become apparent. Maybe your whole body feels like a knot tonight. I know those feelings. So send a little bit of breath in the direction of the tension. Nice. One more breath. Great. Okay, let's find a downward facing dog again. And from your downward facing dog, we'll extend that left leg up and back behind this time and open through the hip. And then just pick up your head and maybe take a little look over your right shoulder for your left foot. Yeah, you want to lift the inner side of your left knee kind of like up and behind you. Good. Great, and then go ahead and step that left foot in between your hands at the top of the mat. Let's take a really slow inhale up into high lunge, really feeling your feet on the floor. And then a slow exhale back down, hands to the floor. Send that right leg nice and high, standing split, just a super brief transition. Chest towards that left thigh. And then that right foot steps down. Great, think about taking your feet maybe a little bit wider here, maybe as wide as the mat, toes pointing out. Good, and sit the hips down in between the heels. Take your squat. And if you're a fan of taking a crow pose or some kind of arm balance from here, you're welcome to do that. Or maybe it's, just the idea of bringing the hands down to the floor and rocking your hips from side to side. That's another nice way to spend time down in the squat. Good. So a few big breaths. And one more deep breath. Great, and then go ahead and fold yourself forward over two long legs. Inhale, come all the way up, reach nice and high. Good, and maybe a tiny little baby back bend here if it suits your shoulders, your mid and low back. Right, and then let's zip it up into this nice structured chair pose, hands together at the heart. Sit down into your chair. And then we'll take the twist on over to the other side. Yeah, and as you get to the other side, just notice how your knees are arranged. Maybe drawing them close. Good, feel your feet on the floor. Perfect. Okay, one more breath. Okay, come back through to the center, nice strong chair pose. Exhale, fold forward over two long legs. Inhale, halfway lift. And then exhale, step it on back into your high plank pose. And we're just gonna drop heels off to the other side, off to the left, I think, yep. Maybe the right hand stays on the floor, or it could lift up. Good, and if you found your side plank, that left knee is up or down, and start to swing that right arm around. Nice, both directions, noticing range of motion in the shoulder. Beautiful, everybody, and come on back through to the center. Take your high plank, and then set yourself down on the floor, keeping those elbows close to you. Good, press into the hands, pick up the heart. Exhale on back, downward facing dog. Awesome. Right, and we'll take 5 breaths or so here. You can stick around in your down dog, find a child's pose. Maybe you want to take a dolphin where you bring your forearms down to the floor, lift the hips. And you might even send one of your feet up towards the ceiling. Good. Yeah, and if you like to do a little spring off that foot, it's a thought. Nice. Yeah, but eventually go ahead and bring yourself down. Let's all find a child's pose, actually, especially if you're doing all that forearm stuff. And let's wrap the arms around us and interlace the fingers behind us at the low back. And then we're gonna roll up onto the top of the head to take a rabbit pose here. If you have any kind of C-spine stuff going on, then maybe not so much, but I think it can be nice to place a little bit of pressure on the top of the head. Hanging here for just a moment. Good, and then come on out of it. Find downward facing dog again. Great, and some thoughts. You might extend that right leg up and back behind you, and if you like to flip your dog around, feel free to do that, or you might take some circles with that right hip, or draw that right knee in towards the nose and take some core planks here. Good, just a moment of doing this. Nice, everybody, yeah. And then come on back around, both hands to the floor. That right leg's gonna be high. Let's step the right foot in between the hands at the top of the mat. Let's lift those arms up again, coming into the high lunge where we're gonna stick around for a moment. And I want you to take an honest look or an honest feel of the hips. Sometimes I like to bend that back knee and drop it down a little bit just so the hips feel a little bit more stabilized. Yeah, but then eventually extending back through that left heel. Beautiful. Your arms are probably up right now, but let's take them around in front of us and interlace the fingers and kind of press those knuckles forward and just feel something different in this pose. And then we'll swing those arms open again. Lift the heart up just a little bit. Good. And a few more breaths like that, sort of rounding the back in the high lunge. And then lifting the heart. Yeah, so almost like what we did in the beginning. Just with your feet on 2 different tracks now. Great. One more. And then as you come forward, we're going to take that left arm underneath the right and hug around. And maybe this is where you want to be. Perhaps you want to interlace those forearms for eagle arms. And you're welcome to stay here in the lunge, or if you want to begin to bring that left foot forward and cross the left thigh over the right to find an eagle pose, then yeah, that's something you could do. And think about your inner thighs kind of squeezing towards the midline. Thinking about, kind of embracing this wobble. Good. Great. And then we're gonna unwind out of this guy and into a standing leg lift, standing split. So hands to the floor, left leg reaches up and back, chest in towards that right thigh. Good. Okay, one more big breath here. Alrighty, and then let's tuck that left knee behind the right, and we're gonna come to sit down on the mat. Sit up nice and tall. We should be in kind of like a twisted lower leg situation. From here, take your left hand onto your right knee and your right hand behind you, and find your bit of a twist. You want to hook that left elbow onto the right knee, that's a thought. Maybe even a prayer twist here if it works in your body. Good, a deep breath in and out. Okay, and unwind out of this one, and you're going to be facing a totally wacky direction, but it's okay. We're going to take a little wide angle fold. So standing up here, let the head drop down. Great, and then thinking about kind of holding this position as you make your way back onto your mat to do the other side. So it's going to be awkward, but give it a whirl. Eventually, we're going to make our way back into downward facing dog with your hands at the top of the mat and your feet at the back. Good. And you might be weird getting there. You might do something like out of the Ministry of Silly Walks. Or not. Good. Downward facing dog. Let's inhale, roll forward, high plank pose. Option to take a side plank, dropping heels over to the right again, if that's in your practice and you want to go there one more time. In this instance, you might extend that left arm out past your head and like make a fist and press it out and maybe pick up that left foot too in some way. Cool. Come back through to the center and bring yourself down towards the floor. Elbows skim the body. Good, breathe in, press into the hands, lift up that heart. Child's pose, child's pose. Good. All right, now here in your child's pose, this is a lovely place to be. You might also take a rabbit pose again, or if you have a headstand practice or a tripod practice, that's also a thought, just throwing it out there for those of you who want to go there. Right. Why don't we take maybe a minute or so either to rest or to invert. Good, everyone. Yeah, just a couple breaths more. Alrighty. If you're upside down, start to make your way out of it. And we'll all come back into extended child's pose just for a breath or two, really reaching those arms out long, connecting the palms with the floor, and then tuck your toes underneath. Find your downward facing dog. Cool. Yeah, and take a moment here to just do those little rituals. Breath or two, paddle out, whatever you like. Right, and then let's send that left leg on up and back behind. Option to kind of hold it here, take some hip circles or flip your dog, or knee into the nose for some down dog, three-legged planks. Good. Great, and coming on back around, left leg lifts high. Let's step the left foot in between the hands and come up into your high lunge here. In this high lunge, thinking about stability, stability through the feet, so finding that width between the feet. Perfect. Great, and then reaching those arms up and overhead just for a breath or two. Let's kind of clasp those hands overhead and then bring the hands out in front of you. Press the knuckles forward. You might even bring your chin in towards your throat. Good. And then we'll just shift back and forth in our high lunge between these two places. Kind of flapping the wings a little bit. Good, and eventually we're just going to take that right arm underneath the left and either hug around or eagle arms here. Good, yeah, and when you feel ready to float that right leg forward into your eagle pose, feel free, and it might be a few steps forward. Find that balance in your left foot here. Good. Nice, spreading those toes wide. Inner thighs squeeze towards each other. Good, and then slowly and carefully unwinding yourself, making your way into your standing leg lift, standing split. Your hands come down, that right leg floats up. Good, yeah, it might be an awkward transition. It might be a graceful transition. Great. In a couple moments here, allow the head to drop down if you feel it lifted. Yes, let it drop. If you notice that you're getting a little dizzy though, it is good to look at the floor. Good. Great, and then eventually let's set that right foot down at the top of the mat. Standing forward fold, a little sway from side to side. Good, inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, plant your palms, step it on back, high plank. I forgot something, guys. I forgot the seated twist. We'll throw in an extra one at the end. Sorry. And let's take side plank from here, dropping heels on over to the left. Good, we'll stretch that right arm out past the head. If that left knee is down, that's great. Good. Maybe you want to float that right foot up too. Cool. Eventually, let's connect both hands and both feet to the floor, high plank. Yeah, set yourself down. Good, press into the hands, lift that heart up. Exhale back, child's pose. Right. Okay, so a couple of offerings here. If you like to invert, you're welcome to do that again. Maybe your shoulders need a little bit of love, so it might also be nice to take like a child's pose and thread the needle combination, sliding one of your arms underneath your chest, stretching through the inner edge of that shoulder blade. Good, yeah, what do you need? What feels best in your body? What is your practice calling for this evening? Nice, yeah, right on everybody, this is great. Yeah, if you're taking that little twist in your child's pose, and take it on over to the other side. Right, 3 more breaths. Good. Come on out of this, both of your hands to the floor. Let's shift it on back, downward facing dog. Right, and I think we're gonna spend a little bit of time like truly trying to embrace awkward movement. Yoga in general, in my opinion, is a whole lot of awkward movement. It takes a lot of time for your body to get this muscle memory. But let's be even weirder here. Let's stretch that right leg up and back behind. Good. Hold it high, this nice kind of simple, stable pose. Nice and even and square. And then step that right foot in between your hands at the top of the mat. Okay, we're gonna lift ourselves into half moon pose, so that left leg is gonna lift up here too. And then lift from the inside line of that left leg. Good, that left hand can stay down, come to the hip, or reach up. Good, taking a breath. And go ahead and set yourself down in a standing forward fold. Good. Soften those knees. Inhale, come all the way up. Reach those arms nice and high. And then let's take the hands down to the heart. Okay, we're going to keep that right foot on the floor and cross that left thigh over the right thigh, coming into eagle pose. Okay, we're also going to take that left arm underneath the right. Good, and snuggling in for just a brief moment here. I turned on some very graceful music for you for the most awkward movement. We're gonna move from this and then into a dancer pose. So it's just unwinding that left thigh from the right, reaching back through the left foot with the left hand, and reaching up with the right arm, and perhaps tipping things forward a little bit here. Good, I've always hated this transition. I've been practicing it a lot recently. You can just move back and forth between those two places at your own pace, and always remembering that stopping in the middle is fine, right? If you want to put your feet down or even like shake it out for a moment, you can do that. Yeah, if you want to omit the legs or the arms, you're welcome to do that. Just taking a bit of time here. Another, I don't know, 45 seconds or so. And then I guarantee you that once you've done that a few times, your hips are going to be like, do something with me, do this thing. And so I want to encourage you to do that thing. Sometimes it's shaking them out. Sometimes it's taking a squat. or maybe a standing forward fold. Yeah, or maybe you want a chair pose or something. I don't know why, but just throwing that out there too. Good, yeah, finding a couple of breaths to just honor your body's needs. Really always trying to honor our body's needs, but giving it exactly what it's asking for right now. Good. Why don't we stand up nice and tall, reach those arms up and overhead, take a big stretch, just one big stretch. Exhale, dive forward over two long legs. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, plant your palms in your flow here, making your way back into downward facing dog. And then from here, sending that left leg up and back behind you nice and long. And think about this being like a bunch of lines and angles, nice and sturdy and steady and strong. Great, and then step that left foot forward in between your hands and finding your half moon pose. Just, again, looking for that sturdiness and steadiness, those lines, those angles. But try to keep your breathing sort of soft here. Lifting from the inside line of that right leg. Gorgeous, everybody. Yeah, beautiful. And then you'll just kind of melt yourself down into your standing forward fold, taking a breath, head's heavy. And inhale to come all the way up, reach nice and high, big stretch. Exhale, hands together at the heart. You're feeling both of your feet on the floor. Great, and then find your eagle pose with your left foot down this time. So crossing your right thigh over the left, crossing that right arm under the left. Great, and these poses on their own are awkward enough. But now let's throw in that transition between here and your dancer pose. Unwinding that right thigh, reaching back for your right foot with your right hand. And then maybe you're tipping forward, sending that left hand out. Good. Great, and just moving kind of slowly here. As if you're moving through some honey or something. And making your way back into Garudasana Eagle pose. Yeah, back into your dancer, just at your own pace. I was looking at my son's school notebook today. It was his math notebook, and on the front of it said, "There is no success without failure first." So I remind myself of that when I'm trying to do weird things like this. And eventually, your body is just going to be like, "That's it. I think I'm done with this." And then just do the next thing. Okay, it might be the full body shake, shaking your arms, shaking your hips, shaking your thighs, like shaking the meat from the bone. Good. It might be swinging the arm side to side. You might like really go for it here and just let it go. Yeah. Forward fold, squat, what works? And eventually we'll all soften into that standing forward fold, nice and peaceful at Uttanasana. Good. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, plant your palms down, step back, high plank pose. And then we're just going to lower ourselves down to the floor. So you might go there slowly and deliberately. Maybe you just want to bring the knees down, set yourself down, and turn your cheek to one side or the other. Nice. Deep breath in. Nice breath out. Good. Taking your arms out into that T shape. Let's press the palms down. Turn your head so that your left cheek is down, and then just roll over to your left side, stacking your shoulders, stacking your hips. Bend both knees and bring them in line with the hips or in towards the chest so that your lower back feels a little bit of support there. Nice. And then if you want to wrap that right arm behind you, that's a thought. Finding a little bit of space across the collarbones. Great. And then as if you are just like taking one movement, slide back onto your belly and onto your right side. Same pose. as liquid as you can be, like you're a drop of water. Good. As you find that space down that right arm, the right shoulder inside of the chest. You notice your knees, wrap your arm behind you. Good, and then bring yourself back onto your belly. Sweep the arms alongside the body, bring your big toes towards each other, and take your locust pose, lifting the chest, the head, the feet, the knees. Good, engaging not only the muscles of the back of the body, but the muscles of the front of the body as well. Consider spreading your toes wide here, just relax. And then go ahead and set yourself down and shake your pelvis, right? As if the glutes can just like move off the bone a little bit. Give yourself a good shake. Option to take another locust, or if you'd like to reach back for both of your feet and take a bow pose. That's a thought here too. If you find your bow pose and are feeling adventurous, you might decide to rock all the way over onto one side, keeping that connection between your hands and your feet. And then finding that awkward move back to the middle and then on over to the other side. Good. Eventually, you'll know when it's time. Set your body back down to the floor. Make contact. Beautiful. And then let's take the hands underneath the shoulders. We'll shift ourselves into a puppy pose here with your hips up above your knees, your arms extended out nice and long, melting heart. Cross one of your ankles over the other. Create that sense of coziness and containment in your lower body. Good. 3 big breaths. And begin to sit your hips back towards your heels. One last child's pose here. In your child's pose, maybe rock your head from side to side and massage your brow. Good, yeah, soften the inner corners of your eyes, corners of your lips. Good, and then come to sit up nice and tall. And I think we're gonna do a little shoelaces sitting up here. So let's have the right leg on the bottom and then cross that left knee on top. And if you'd like to bend that right knee as well, you're welcome to do that. And a blanket under your seat could be like a really nice thing here, or even a block. Let's practice like our classic cow face pose. I don't know the last time I actually did this exact pose. I'm gonna use my strap. Right hand is up. The left hand reaches behind for the strap, or maybe your hands come together. Good, thinking about lifting that right elbow up. Good, and then notice what your lower ribs are doing. If they're jutting way out, see if you can kind of draw them in and back. And press your sitting bones into the floor. Good, you can choose to stay right here, sitting up tall, your arms in the position. You could fold forward, keeping the arms. You could also release the hands down, chest towards that left thigh. Good, just a breath or 2 more. And as you come to sit up nice and tall, I'm gonna take a little twist over to the left. It could be a tall twist like this with your spine like really lifting, crown up, or maybe that right elbow wants to press down into the top of that left knee for a little prayer twist. Good. You're holding this here for just a couple breaths, not forcing anything, just feeling it. Feeling what your breath does. Okay. And then bring yourself back through to the center. And if you have both of your legs folded up like this, then let's maybe take this fun transition. Coming forward onto your knees in both of your hands. Press into the feet, lift up the knees. And then walk your hands around to the right. Ooh, walk them all the way around behind you. Keep your feet right where they are. Fold your legs back up. Ooh, and sit down. Okay, we made it. All right, so now adjust yourself just a little bit. Maybe on this side you do need a blanket. This is my slightly tighter hip, so I'm gonna grab one. And then go ahead and find your strap. Let's send that left hand up and then drop it down behind you and reach the right hand back too. Maybe walking your hands down the strap. Good, and noticing the balance in your body. Feeling that right sitting bone pressing down while that left elbow reaches up. The lower ribs knit in. Good, and a little fold forward here perhaps. Good, inhale, lift yourself up, and then your little twist. It could be that prayer twist. Good, and then just begin to unwind yourself out of this. And let's find our backs. Already time to find our backs. And I'm thinking of a few things that you might do as a final pose or on your way to your final pose. And recline bound angle seems nice to me, but so does constructive rest with your knees pointing up, soles of the feet on the floor. If you feel like a little bit more invigoration, another back bend might be the thing, like a bridge or a wheel. And just know that when you're ready to set yourself down and rest, you can do that. Good. Good. Close your mouth. Block off your senses. Blunt your sharpness. Untie your knots. Soften your glare. Settle your dust. This is the primal identity. So see if there are some words that you can use to describe the quality of the energy in your body right now. That you can use to describe your breathing. You can use to describe how your physical body is feeling. And a few words to describe what you know to be true. And a few words to remind you of that which brings you joy. Good. Yeah. And when you are ready to move your body around, go ahead and just do the thing. Wiggle those fingers and toes. Open and close the hands, point and flex the feet. Yeah, all those small movements eventually turn into bigger movements. And those bigger movements eventually turn into you finding a seated position. Yeah, and we'll just come to sit up nice and tall for a couple breaths. And I did this in yesterday morning's class, and I just really loved it. Let's all look at our screens and just like look at each other for a second. Hi, everybody. Hi. And allowing yourself to kind of take in this fact that we all practice together right now, which is so cool. Right. Let's take our hands onto our heart and kind of hold them there for a moment. And you might even take this like very gentle side to side massage as if like you're soothing, comforting yourself. Good. And then let's feel the heart lift up into the hands, the collarbones broad, and we sit up nice and tall. Deep breath in. And then exhale to drop your head down towards your hands and your heart, honoring your practice and honoring each other too. Thanks everybody, yay, happy Monday.